First, we got to get to this. Flight cancellations causing some major headaches for travelers out there again, as staffing shortages and bad weather force many airlines to ground flights. So far today, a whopping 2,400 flights have been canceled. Meanwhile, many Americans still struggling to afford food, the basics, and prices at the store keep climbing. But don't expect the Democrats to accept responsibility for this mess. They are too busy blaming everyone else.
With all of the constraints that COVID has placed, look, we have the war in Iraq, we have COVID, which has really deterred more product coming into our country, either by design or just by marketplace factors.
She said war in Iraq, but I think she meant war in Ukraine. And if it's not food, it is gas that is way too expensive for all of us, with the average today reaching $4.99 a gallon. That's up almost $2 from last year. But according to President Biden, that's not his fault either.
So if you just base it what a barrel of oil costs in country, it should not be decided to make an exorbitant profit, number one. Number two, I've contacted them, what my team has, to ask what their plans are and to give any suggestions they have. They have over 9,000 leases. 9,000. They can drill so the hell won't have it. But they're not doing it, number two. Number three, I think we're going to be in a position where we're going to...
All right, let's get to it. I know we all have a lot to say. Katie, let's start with you. I mean, this is probably the biggest criticism, right, of the Biden administration is take responsibility, tackle it head on. The buck stops with who?
Well, and it's not just take responsibility and be accountable as the president, but also Joe Biden campaigned as an empathetic figure who understood the problems that the poor and working classes had. He talks about how when things go up in price, it affects you at your kitchen table. He's not acting like that. You know, he said those comments outside of the Marine One, where he flew off to Delaware for the week, where he is for the beach. And the truth is that Americans are getting hit just on Main Street, of course, but also on Wall Street. So on Main Street, diesel fuel is above $6.40 on average across the country. How do you think that people get their groceries at the store? On trucks, and, that take goods from the farm.
Such a great point. Like diesel, the price of diesel being high, to me, is a bigger deal than the price of gas, because that's not just convenience. Hey, can I go to the movies? That is, hey, can I make my living today? You have a truck with a bunch of lawn care equipment on it. Everything on that truck takes gas, and then the diesel truck gets it there. You're absolutely right, Katie.
Can I piggyback on that? Because, Aisha, you did that piece last week in Nevada about the man who's talking about walking to his job because he can't afford gas. And you guys are all wrong. California, price of gas, diesel, $6, $7, $8, $9 a gallon.
Leo, I'm not wrong because I don't live there.
Well, I'm all right. I'm the wrong because I live there. But let me just make one last point. That segment, that opening video segment, they're all in denial. The Democrats need to look in the mirror because the problem is the Democrats.
Well, that's the thing. At the end of the day, right, it's impacting you at home. The average American, you're talking about that guy, Salvador Munoz. When he told me that, I mean, my heart sank into my stomach. And I thought to myself, it is 109 degrees outside. We are barely able to sit here and have this conversation. And you are thinking about walking to your overnight shift, one of two jobs, because you can't afford gas.
And he cares about his family.
And then another woman told me she works for gas. She works for food, and there's nothing left over. I mean, this is what Americans are going through. It's like, how much worse does it have to get?
Well, I actually read a story this morning about a pawn shop in Lubbock, Texas. Now people are coming in with their valuables and pawning off their valuable possessions in order to make money to pay for gas. I mean, that is horrific. And then you take a look at people's 401k plans, and that has been completely wiped out. I mean, the fact that the stock market had a crash this week, that's worse than March 2020 when the whole world was shutting down. Years of people's lives of working hard to save money for their retirement has been completely.
Let me tell you, Katie, I grew up that way. I grew up, hey, we got to sell our hunting rifles at the end of hunting season because we can't afford to have $500 tied up in something we're not going to use till next fall. I know what it's like to live that way. I know what it's like to go shopping for Christmas in a pawn shop and see stuff that you put there last year because you didn't have the money to keep it. We worked really hard to get out of that, and for anybody getting put back in it after the 4 years we had under Trump, it's a disgrace to this country because when you tell that story about somebody walking to work, there's two realities there. One is the reality of people in this country. The other is the reality of who they are and what they're willing to do to make it.
Did you notice that in that segment that we saw the failure of the media, other than Peter Doocy, to push back on these false representations? What Nancy Pelosi was saying. No, she got it right. We talked about it right. But they don't push back because the media is in the pocket of the Democratic Party, except for Peter Doocy.
They're not in Biden's pocket so much anymore, though.
Oh, well, no, they're criticizing him. But I'm telling you right now, he's sitting there giving these basically lies about the state of the economy and why it's in such a bad.
Well, I will say, I think it is reflecting in the polls. So Fox News just came out with a batch of fresh polls. Let's pull this one. This is Biden's a job approval rating. 39% of Americans out there approve, which means 58%. He is super underwater, drowning. I mean, they only have a few more months left before the midterms, and I would think Democrats all over America are looking to the leader of their party to do something about it.
Jimmy Carter is very happy right now because this is the worst president in the last 50 years.
You know, you say 39% of Americans approve of him. I didn't know that many people
USA
lived in.
Today poll. USA Today
I didn't know that many people lived in Georgetown and Connecticut. You know, like, I mean, who else is happy with this?
No one.
Well, also, you know, you think about, will this change? Where is this coming from? How is it that the country went so quickly into the tank when it comes to the economy? If you take a look at Joe Biden's National Economic Council, there are more people on that who have a ideology similar to Bernie Sanders than they do to Larry Summers under Obama, for example. And let's remember that Bernie Sanders is now the Senate Budget Committee chairman, and he at one time praised Nicaraguan bread lines from the government as an example of how the government was functioning for their people, and that it was that bread lines were a strength of an economy.
Well,
so that's where we are, and you're seeing now all these prices and a shortage of pretty much everything around the country with supply chains, and they think that's just fine.
Well, and voters just rejected his candidate in Nevada against Dina Titus. I think it was Amy Vilela. Bernie Sanders' endorsed candidate didn't make it through.
So on this topic, real quick, you kind of introduced this entire topic talking about gas prices, talking about this clip of Biden blaming the oil companies. And I think what's really funny about all of this is there's a clip that's circulating in social media. Jason Smith, congressman, I believe, out of Utah, not a very big, stir of things. He's grilling Janet Yellen, I believe it was, about inflation and how inflation is tied to government spending. And she admits that their strategy for tackling inflation is to try to reduce deficit. He doesn't go there, but it's pretty easy. If you reduce deficit to reduce inflation, does that mean spending $1 trillion might be why we raised inflation? And so even going around the mountain, they're not taking responsibility. But in her own words, she kind of created that assimilation there. And so when you look at what they're trying to do, they're going to hand out government gas cards, right? They're going to supercharge demand with taxpayer money. All that's going to do is keep prices high.
That's a joke. And besides what Katie said about the influence of Bernie Sanders, let's be very clear. The Biden administration did everything possible to undo everything Trump did. Everything. The energy independence, they tried to just basically erase 4 years. And we're suffering from that. And people can make a fair comparison of what the Biden administration has done and how we were living on January 20th, 2021.
Well, now that things are getting bad and it's showing up in the polls ahead of the midterms, we have Janet Yellen saying they made a mistake on inflation. They didn't see it coming. They saw it coming. They just made a political calculation back when President Biden wanted to pass Build Back Better and when he wanted to pass the American Rescue Act, the $1.9 trillion bill, which shot inflation through the roof. They made the calculation that it was more important for Joe Biden to get a win politically on that issue, to be a transformational president, than to say maybe this is going to hurt the American people down the road and make a better economic decision.
Really quickly, I'm going to poll you guys. Are we headed into a recession with this 3/4 of a rate interest hike?
I'm not an economist. I don't know. I'll tell you that people at home don't care. They already feel it.
Yeah, I think we already are in a recession.
Wow.
I taught economics in 11th grade. The answer is yes.
Okay, you heard it there first.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.